June 1969. The Chochi Canal, Mekong Delta, Vietnam. For the men of the Brown Water Navy, this was no grand ocean war. It was a terrifying, suffocating grind. They were sailors trapped on a highway of mud, water, and fear, where the enemy was always a ghost just beyond the tree line. Our hero was Chief Petty Officer David "Shine" Kelly. He was 28 years old, but the delta heat and constant tension had etched lines of exhaustion onto his face that made him look a decade older. He earned the nickname Shine not for any polish, but for the perpetually grim sheen of sweat that coated him in the delta's brutal humidity. Kelly commanded a PBR, Patrol Boat River, a fiberglass hull and twin diesels armed with machine guns and pure nerve. His crew was his family: the cocky gunner, Petty Officer Second Class Miller, the quiet, indispensable radio man, Seaman Ortiz, and the young engine tech, Doc Riley, only 19 years old. Kelly had one rule: we don't leave anyone for the mud. On this day, his PBR, Swift 18, was leading a 3-boat patrol up a narrow, winding canal, the kind of place where the silence felt louder than a bomb. They were 15 miles into a known enemy supply route when the trap sprung. A crescent of heavy fire from both banks, pinning all 3 boats down in a channel barely wide enough to turn. Tracer rounds stitched the water and splintered the mangrove trees. Their path forward, the only way to break the kill zone, was completely blocked by a civilian sampan. It drifted silently in the current, its woven canopy low, its shape ominously perfect. Every river rat knew the calculus of this war. The sampan was a common, merciless trap. It was either laden with explosives, blocking the lane for a larger ambush, or both. The standard operating procedure, drilled into every man through weeks of brutal training, was immediate and total destruction. Blow the sampan out of the water, clear the line of fire, and save your crew. Hesitation meant the death of every man on 3 boats. Kelly had the targeting lock on the sampan, his finger hovering over the button for the forward automatic grenade launcher. But through the shimmering heat, the smoke, and the chaos, his veteran eye caught something his orders demanded he ignore. A small, terrified child, perhaps 5 years old, huddled beneath the sampan's canopy. Any rational commander would have fired. Any reasonable sailor would have chosen 14 American lives over one unknown child. Chief Kelly did neither. He looked at the child, then at his bleeding crew, and made a decision that would define his life and risk everything he held dear. He made a choice that violated every tactical doctrine, every instinct of self-preservation, and every oath of obedience. He adjusted his aim not to destroy the hull, but to disable the engine block. He fired a single, deliberate warning shot. The explosion was minimal, but the sound of the engine dying and the puff of diesel smoke was a clear signal to the hidden enemy that the trap had been sprung and the element of surprise was lost. The moment he chose humanity, the enemy opened fire with a terrible, concentrated fury. Swift 18 was shredded. Gunner Miller went down, screaming. Radio man Ortiz took a direct hit to the leg. Kelly, already bleeding from shrapnel in his thigh, got his boat out of the kill zone, but he did so at the cost of his crew's blood. He saved a life he wasn't supposed to save, and for that act he received no medal, no acknowledgement, only the silent, crushing weight of his crew's pain. To understand the immense weight of Kelly's choice, you have to appreciate the peace and order of the life he idealized. David Kelly was a Great Lakes sailor through and through.
He grew up on the docks of Cleveland, Ohio, hauling freight on massive ore carriers. He breathed the cold, clean air of Lake Erie, dreaming of piloting tankers across the vast, predictable freshwater seas. He was a man of logic, currents, and precision, a natural-born boatswain. He enlisted in the Navy in 1960, not to fight, but to master the art of seamanship. He wanted a career on the water, a life of quiet dignity. His aptitude for small craft and navigation was phenomenal. He was fast-tracked for a career that should have kept him far from the chaos of war, teaching navigation on a training base or serving aboard a fleet carrier. But the growing commitment in Southeast Asia had a voracious appetite for skilled men. The Navy recognized his talents were exactly what was needed to pilot the low, nimble PBRs. He was transferred to the Brown Water Navy, a sudden, violent shift from the quiet immensity of the Great Lakes to the claustrophobic dread of the Mekong Delta. This was his personal betrayal. Kelly had to turn his mastery of currents and navigation into an engine of war, piloting a small craft designed to hunt and kill in an environment that offered no clear lines, no clean victories. He became a reluctant warrior, a master craftsman, forced to use his tools for destruction. His dedication to his crew, his unyielding rule of "we don't leave anyone for the mud," became his only personal code in a war that had none.
The immediate aftermath of the ambush was medically brutal. Kelly saved the patrol, but at a severe cost. Miller, the gunner, lost most of the function in his dominant arm. Ortiz, the radio man, nearly bled out and was medically retired. Kelly himself was patched up, his shrapnel wounds not life-threatening but painful and deep. The official military response to the near disaster was swift and predictable. Kelly's actions, the deliberate defiance of the destroy-on-sight order to save a civilian, would have raised critical, career-ending questions about command accountability. It would have exposed a vulnerability in the rules of engagement and confirmed that American commanders were capable of prioritizing the enemy's civilians over American soldiers. The subsequent investigation produced a sanitized report. It stated the forward grenade launcher on Swift 18 suffered a critical malfunction, leading to a round going wide and accidentally disabling the sampan's engine. It was easier to blame faulty weaponry than a conscientious man. Kelly was quickly medically evacuated and honorably discharged due to the severity of his shrapnel wounds. He received the Purple Heart for his pain and the Bronze Star for effective tactical leadership under fire. His true selfless act of courage, the refusal to kill an innocent, was not merely overlooked, it was officially erased and replaced with the lie of a malfunction. He was hailed as a quiet hero who brought his men out under impossible conditions. He carried the medals for his endurance and his leadership, but he carried the unspoken guilt of his men's shattered bodies. He was given 2 years of silent penance for the child he saved and a lifetime of regret for the injuries he chose for his friends.
David Kelly returned home to Cleveland. The transition was agonizing. He saw other veterans, the ones who talked, the ones who marched, the ones who found kinship in shared trauma. Kelly found silence. He never sought to correct the official record. He never spoke of the child he saved, not to his wife, not to the military, not even to the doctors who treated his post-traumatic stress. He felt the lie was his own penance. The medals felt heavy and undeserved because they represented the official, distorted version of events. He used his Navy training and his GI Bill benefits to become a humble maritime mechanic working on the Great Lakes freighters, returning finally to the cold, clean water he loved.
but his life was consumed by the silent burden he carried. He never found peace because he never sought absolution. Instead, he sought atonement. Kelly worked 3 jobs for years to build up a substantial fund. He used this money to quietly, anonymously, support the families of his 2 most severely wounded crewmen, Miller and Ortiz. He never told them. He simply ensured that their medical bills were manageable, that their children had college money, and that they never asked for help from the government they served. He knew that the system had failed them all. In his mind, their suffering was the direct result of his defiance, his choice to put human life above the mission. His self-imposed duty was to ensure that his conscience was the only thing that suffered. This long, arduous act of silent financial support, this post-war sacrifice, was the real Bronze Star he earned.
Chief Petty Officer David Shine Kelly died quietly in 2008, a respected mechanic and a devoted family man. His military file remained clean, his service record unremarkable, aside from the Purple Heart and the Bronze Star. The system, having sealed its own secret, maintained the lie. But his story is a testament to a different kind of courage, one not measured by ordnance expended, but by the line a man refuses to cross. His decision that day on the Cho Chi Canal proved that the greatest act of patriotism is not the blind adherence to a flawed mission, but the fierce defense of human dignity. He risked everything, his life, his honor, his freedom, and his peace of mind, to save an enemy child and preserve his own humanity. He never received a Medal of Honor or even the proper citation for the courage he demonstrated. But David Kelly carried something far more valuable than an engraved piece of metal. He carried a clear conscience. He saved his wingmen, and in a war that demanded absolute obedience, he showed that the true core of the American fighting spirit is not overwhelming firepower, but the moral restraint to know when and how to refuse to pull the trigger. His story is a reminder that the greatest acts of valor are often the ones the military command and the official history books have chosen to forget. And for those men who served in the river mud, the final battle is often fought not against the enemy, but against the silence of a nation that demanded their sacrifice but could not acknowledge their soul.